Hi folks, Sheva here for Will to Live, helping you help your loved ones. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about burnout. And yes, I'm sitting in my classroom, waiting for my students to arrive. I'm very early, I'm always very early. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about burnout and how it can build up and what you can do to prevent it. So we'll start by talking a little bit about micro stresses. Now, if you haven't heard about micro stresses, it's basically just tiny bouts of stress that you experience throughout your day. And so when you wake up in the morning, you may feel energized, ready to go. But over the course of the day, every choice you have to make, every decision you have to make, every sort of interaction you have has a potential to create a little tiny bout of stress. Now, this is just life, right? This is what happens in life. But you can start to notice that if you have an email sound and it goes bling and you start to feel like, oh, here I go, right? That's a little micro stress. Or if you're checking your voice messages and you see 3 voice messages, a bout of stress. There's a lot of situations during the day where you're feeling these bouts of stress. And what happens is if you don't do anything to help that stress, it starts to build up and accumulate. And over time, that accumulated stress can lead to burnout. It can lead to compassion fatigue. It can lead to you becoming more prone to taking on vicarious trauma. And so it's really important to try to mitigate the impact of these bouts of stress. And when you're a helper in the field, you find that, when you start off in your new job, you're pretty gung-ho, you're pretty excited, and over time, it kind of wanes. And you're starting to get a little bit more short. Maybe you're making comments like, oh, here we go again, right? And you can notice that there are things happening where you're not quite the person you started off as. So what do? What we have to do is we have to recognize these moments. I don't know if you feel it or if you feel it in the same way I do, but I can feel it as like a little tension in my chest, like, like, uh-oh, I got to deal with this. And that's energy being built up in your body. And you have to find a way to transfer or use up this energy. It's there for a biological reason. It's there to help us, back in the day, our adrenaline going to run out the room or run away from that panther back in the day. It served a purpose. But nowadays, when things are relatively safe, our brain and in our amygdala, the fear sensing part of our brain, it hasn't caught up with evolution in terms of we're actually in safe environments now. And so it's highly sensitized to any form of stress as a way to protect ourselves. And so we have to find ways to take that energy and let it go. The very easiest way to do it is when you feel stress. If you can get up and do some movement, that's the natural way to deal with it, right? Because your body's wanting you to get up and run. You don't have to run, but you can get up, you can pace, you can move back and forth, do some sort of movement. Another way to deal with it is when you feel that bout of stress, what can happen is you can start to feel your heart race. And so one of the easy ways to lower that heart rate is to take a deep breath in, hold for 4, and then let it go for 6 counts. And why I say 6 at least is because you want your exhale to be longer than your inhale, because what that does is it slows down your heart rate. So it decreases the intensity of the stress you're feeling. The other thing I really want to highlight is I said earlier about every day you're dealing with choices. And this is where the power of routine and consistency comes in. And I experienced this actually pretty recently because we got this big discount on HelloFresh. If you don't know what HelloFresh is, it's a food delivery service where they send you a recipe, all the ingredients you need for it, and then you cook it, right? And so I noticed how much less stress I was feeling during the day because I didn't have to do the grocery shopping. I didn't have to make a decision about what to eat, and everything was there and ready to go. And this is quite a privilege, I understand. But just having a decision already made for me, I could feel the ripple impact of that stress being gone. So if there's ways in your life that you can set a pattern or consistency that's really going to help you, because it'll take away that decision making or that moment where you have to do all these other pieces. So routine and consistency is very healthy. I can probably do a whole 10 minutes on routine and consistency, or 2 hours, but I won't go there. So if you can create little consistent routines, what you're doing is you're creating habits. When you have a habit, you don't have to think about something or make a choice about it. You just do it. And that's a really great way to take out that stress. The last thing I do want to mention is we are bombarded with negativity, with anger, with rage through our social media, through the news. If you have any ability in your life to tone down that screaming voice from social media, please do it. It is such a helpful thing. Even for me, because I think we're drawn to negativity because we're always sort of on the lookout of what else could go wrong. That's very much based in psychology. We have that negativity bias. And I noticed that my YouTube algorithm was feeding me things that were very, things that are easy to react to. So I had to go in there and start searching up gardening videos and taking care of chicken videos to change up my algorithm, because I wanted to see more positive things. In fact, I have somebody that I work with, a young man. He's only about 19 years old, and he suffers with severe PTSD symptoms, such that you would expect in a veteran who's gone overseas for work. But this kid has never done that. He had a pretty cush life here, living on this side of the world and enjoying life, and yet he had these symptoms. And what they found was it seems to be mostly related to his watching of really violent, really graphic videos from a very young age, because he's really obsessed with the military. So think about that for a second, right? We are being bombarded with these videos, and they're quite horrific these days, the things that are just popping up on our social media pages. And every time we watch something like that or read about something like that, we are getting that dose of stress again. And we often just suppress it, push it down, move on with our day, but beneath the surface, it's accumulating. And over time, when these stresses accumulate and you're not paying attention to actually dealing with them, these will seep out in other ways. So these will seep out in ways that you're not aware that they're connected to these stresses. So it could look like irritability. It could look like you snapping back very quickly in relationships. It could look like you not sleeping very well anymore at night. It could look like disrupted relationships in your life. And so you want to be really mindful of that. You become a little bit more self-aware. Like, when I feel that little stress, what can I do in that moment to help me? And what can I do to structure the environment around me to help me, right? So that might be reducing your exposure to social media, or rejigging your algorithm so you're getting a lot more positivity. It might be creating routines. It might be practicing that in that moment, mindfulness, that breathing exercises to slow down your heart rate. All the best. You got this.